Hi, and welcome to the OT is In, the podcast where we merge the worlds of education and occupational therapy to empower families like yours. I'm Sarah Collins, your host, an occupational therapist and a homeschooling parent. I've experienced occupational therapy by supporting families for over 15 years, but also through seeking out support of my own children. So I'm right here in the trenches with you. Though there is not one way to educate your child, there is a lot to consider when individualizing an education. And the goal of this podcast is to explain some of the why behind what an occupational therapist is thinking so you can apply it to your own family. Especially with my three favorite topics: executive functioning, handwriting, and sensory processing. Each episode will be packed with practical tips, expert interviews, and real-life stories aimed at helping you to create a supportive learning environment for your child. So, grab your headphones and get ready to dive in of the collision of education and occupational therapy. I'm Sarah Collins from Homeschool OT, and I'm thrilled to have you with me on this journey of discovery. Hey, and welcome back to the OT is In. I am your host, Sarah Collins, and today in episode 38, I'm thrilled to introduce you to our guest, Trinity Hart. She is an innovative entrepreneur and a homeschool graduate. Trinity and I first crossed paths nearly 2 years ago at the Virginia Homeschool Convention, and since then I've been fascinated by her hands-on learning products designed to make education a fun and sensory-rich experience for kids. So join us as Trinity shares her inspiring journey from being homeschooled herself to creating sensory kits and fine motor activities that cater to children of all learning styles and needs. We'll delve into the creative process behind her unique products. You'll even hear her say, "Well, I wondered." And yes, I wondered again, which made my homeschool mama heart really happy. We also discuss their educational benefits and explore practical ways parents can utilize these tools both indoors and outdoors. So whether you're interested in fine motor skill development, sensory learning, or simply looking for innovative educational activities for your kids, this episode is packed with valuable insights, ideas, and pieces from my OT brain about activity analysis. Plus, stick around to the end for a special discount code for Trinity's incredible products. So let's get started. One of the top reasons that parents reach out to me at Homeschool OT is help me, help my child with handwriting, or my child is struggling with handwriting and so many people are just telling me to forget it. It's not even necessary. What do I do? We've touched on this in several times on the OT is In podcast. Episodes 5 through 8 discuss the impact of vision on handwriting. Episodes 21 through 24 discuss general strength in handwriting, and now episodes 37 through 39 are talking about the fine motor skills needed for handwriting. And there will be more series on this in the future. But if you, a homeschooling parent, are looking for ways to improve your child's handwriting and can't wait for these future episodes to touch on the topics that pertain specifically to you, look no further than the handwriting focus group. Each week for 4 weeks, there are new videos and written information on the underlying skills needed for handwriting, information on dysgraphia, curriculums and products to support the actual act of handwriting, and low-tech as well as high-tech assistive technology to support your child's success. Now I say over 4 weeks, but you do have lifetime access because I totally recognize the busyness of homeschool parents and parents in general. So visit homeschoolot.com today and learn more about the ways to join our handwriting focus group, or visit more specifically homeschoolot.com/handwriting-focus-group. Let's make handwriting fun, easy, and effective together. Hey, and welcome back to the OT is In. My name is Sarah Collins, and I have with me today Trinity Hart. Now, Trinity and I first met, I don't know, almost 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the Virginia Homeschool Convention, and she was there with her products, and I was there with Homeschool OT, and I was just looking at everything, going, "Yes, this is perfect." So, first, I am super excited to interview another homeschool and entrepreneur combo. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, definitely. I actually grew up homeschooled. My mom homeschooled. There's five of us. So she
Ah,
homeschooled all of us. And then when I started sixth grade was my first like homeschool year. So that was like transition. And I always knew I wanted to teach in some form. So after I graduated, then I ended up teaching in like daycares and preschools. And that's when I really saw the need for more like hands-on learning activities. And so that's what really sparked the business. Yeah.
love that. Kudos to your mom. She must have really
Yes.
instilled in you that business mind and see a need and fill it. Wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what are the
definitely.
other four of your siblings doing now?
So one of my sisters is in school for psychology. My other sister is a manager at her store, and then my brothers have their own business too.
Look at that. I wonder if there
Yeah.
is anything to the amount of homeschoolers that become entrepreneurs. I don't know that research, but I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I feel like there is just because you can see how much you can do with your hands without having to wait for like finishing school and then starting a business. You can just start working on it younger. And then my mom owned a business as well, and she owns a business, so we saw that growing up too. So she would have us helping out with her business and all that. So I saw your daughter with you at the convention, and I was like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, I remember those days with my mom. Like,
I'm gonna meet your mama. So great. And now you
yeah,
live in
definitely.
Virginia too?
Yeah, yeah, we're out in Chesapeake. So
I love it.
kind of
And
going through
so
the weather changes ish right now.
for sure, for sure. Now, can you tell us a little bit about what your product is, where you're going with your business?
Yes, yes. So I make sensory kits and different fine motor activities for kids. My goal is to give kids a chance to have something fun where they don't even really know that they're learning. So I do different educational items like my alphabet sets, and I've got different themes of those. And then just chunky ones, I've got different ones that are different textures so they can feel it and trace out the letters. I've got different sensory kits that have lots of different textures to them. So honestly, just trying to get kids that hands-on. I was always a big hands-on learner, so trying to get them that hands-on sensory part of it to encourage the learning.
I love that. So you saw something that was a need for your own self and then saw it in when you were out working in the preschools
Yeah.
and that kind of seconded it. And then now you're rolling right through that. Now, as an OT, like when we've been working on handwriting, there are so many people that go straight to fine motor skills. In fact, I hear this on social media all the time where they're like, it's fine motor, you better get the putty, you got to do these things. And that isn't always true. And we have had some episodes in
Yeah.
the past all on core strength and on vision and other aspects of fine motor. But today, yes, I do want to focus on
Mhm.
this fine motor part. So when you're talking about the
Yeah.
different textures and your different ways that you can play with the alphabet, trace around it, tell me
Yeah.
what are some things that you've seen kiddos do with your products?
So I've got a few different kinds of, I've got a sand tray, and so I'll let them get like the little tracing tablet, and so we'll trace out the different letters and then they can trace it with their fingers. I've got a little pen, but usually the kids want to go just straight with their hands. And then I make different letter sets, and so I'll have them like stamp it into Play-Doh, and then they can trace that around or use the different pieces and feel the letter. And I even have them like trace it with a dry erase board and trace it with the dry erase markers to do things like that, or even just hiding the letters in different things. So you have to close your eyes and search for it and figure out what the letter is before you open your eyes, just introducing it to them
Super fun.
before so that they're encouraged to do it later on.
So what do you make them out of?
So I do a few different kinds of materials because I do know I've got some kiddos with like texture aversions to things. So I do resin, I use different like acrylics and woods. I even do some like sensory foam. So different kinds of things depending on the little one. But yeah,
Let's back
kind
up a
of.
little bit because I want to know more about your creative process yourself. Like, how did you even decide, wow, resin? That's not like I'm walking down in my basement. I'm like, let me try out some resin today. Like, how
Yeah.
did that come about?
So actually, I was working in a daycare, and I had won like a giveaway for some resin. And I was like, oh, this is an interesting thing. I wonder like how many different ways you can do it, because it was just something simple. And so I was like, okay, like I wonder how else I can do this. So I ended up, I was working with a little boy he had speech apraxia. And so we were trying to work on different like fine motor things for him to get him more out of his comfort zone doing different things.
Mhm.
And I knew based on his like likes that he really liked dinosaurs and things. So I had looked up different ways to figure out how to make different dinosaurs. So like I ended up making him like little fossils. I made like letter sets that specifically had dinosaur bones inside them. So just making it
So cool.
entertaining so that
Yeah.
he, thank you, so that it was more of a game than work. So yeah, trying to keep it entertaining all around. And then as I was digging into it, I had parents asking like, hey, how can I do this at home? Is there anything that I can like work on with him while we're at the house? And then just other parents looking into things. So that's, it grew more than I was even planning for it to.
Isn't that
But yeah.
beautiful? Do you know what I noticed the most
Thank
about
you.
your conversation there is you're like, and then I said, I wonder about what I could do with this. And I wonder, that's such, I'm homeschooled language that you've been encouraged.
Yes,
And
definitely. My mom always was, she's very encouraging on like, okay, how can you do it? How could you do this better? How could you figure a way to do it different? Like, so that's, I've grown up with that kind of language.
that's so great. So you're wondering, and then parents are like, hey, I also am wondering, how else can I do this at
Yeah.
home
Yeah.
with my own child? So what are some unique ways that you've seen people use your letters and your alphabet?
Yeah. I've seen one mom, she ended up getting like a letter set and she poured some water on it inside a sensory bin. And then she used flour, I believe, and like dye. And so then you couldn't see the letters at all. So she had
Oh,
them like searching for it with a, sorry, like a little net trying to find it. And so I was like, okay, hadn't thought of that
yeah.
one. I used like some Play-Doh and I just covered all the letters in the Play-Doh and then had them like uncover it. And that was like a dinosaur dig thing. So we had them like shaped like little eggs. And so you had to find each letter and then match it because I have a little puzzle board too. So it's okay, now you've got to match it to that letter. Few different kinds of interesting. I've had people use the boards and like trace the letters on the outside and then flip it around so you can find it that way. But yeah, lots of interesting ways
Yeah.
that I hadn't considered doing. But
Yeah. And
yeah,
it's
but
even
that's to show
there.
that there's so many.
Go ahead. I
I
didn't
know.
mean to.
I was just gonna say it's there's so many different ways that you like different people think, and there's no
Mhm.
right or wrong way to teach or to learn. So trying
Yeah.
to see those different things. But yeah,
And
sorry.
kids can get started with something like this and then just keep playing and build on their own. And so you've talked about some
Yes.
ways that adults could set up that environment of, I'm going to give you water and flour and a net, and here's the letters and watch them go. Now, have you seen your kids really take them and just go with it in a different way that you weren't expecting?
Yes, absolutely. I go to different like in-person events like the Virginia Homeschool Convention, and I see so many different kids set things up, and I'll just have a few things set out for them, and I see them go in so many different shapes and forms throughout the weekends. I have these rainbow stackers, and so it's like a rainbow, and you can stack it. It's supposed to be, and like you stack it back into the rainbow. But I see so many different shapes and forms of them where they'll flip them upside down. You see them like climbing, and they'll add like different items to
Yes.
it. It's honestly incredible how many different ways you can see kids thinking and you can really see them focusing on that process and like they'll mess up and they'll like retry and try it a different way. So that's one of my favorite parts of just doing those in-person events is seeing how the different uses for the products are and that they can just make it their own so fast.
I love that. And like the OT in me is thinking, yes. And as they're doing that, they're got their task initiation, their flexible thinking. These are all executive functioning skills that as
Yeah.
we move forward. So not only are we sure we're using your hands, you're in sensory bends and you're feeling all of these textures, you're using your muscles, but so much of your brain that you're using
Yeah.
just in looking at a bin with flour and a rainbow.
Yeah, honestly. And I see so many parents like watching their kids, like, wow, they're really focusing on this. And I had a little girl, and her mom was like, I've never seen her this focused on anything. So just that is always encouraging because they'll really dive in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that you and I talked about way back when the first time we met is you were
Yeah.
like, and you can just take them wherever you want to go. At that point, you were talking about going to
Yeah.
church and using them in like busy bags and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
So what are some unique places that you've been with your letters or that somebody else has been?
Yeah. So church is a common one. And we've done road trips. And so we like drove out to Florida and I brought my niece one. And so she was sitting in her little car seat doing her kits. I've seen people take them on airplanes. I've seen people just like going in the grocery store with their little kits because I now have little portable ones. I've seen people at different homeschool conventions and I'll just bring little portable bins and they'll have their different kits like, oh, thank you. I forgot to bring something. Yeah, I feel like there's so many different places you can do it. If you can put it on their lap, then they can play with it.
So what do they come in when you say you have to go kits? What do they come in?
Yeah, so I have little plastic containers with lids. So they're completely sealable. And then I individually like baggie the Play-Dohs and like the sensory fillers because I'll usually do like a mini filler, some like kinetic sand, some Play-Doh, and then like different counters and different like textures of pieces. So I'll have some resin, some acrylic in the kits, and then just have them in that little plastic container so they can take it with them and keep it in that container for the most part. I've got little compartments in them. Yeah, keep it as mess free as possible. But
Right. So great. In my mind, I'm thinking of when my boys were younger and really learning their letters and
yeah,
learning to spell and things like that. And we would add in, oftentimes I'd put something at the end of a hallway and they'd be on a scooter and going down, and then they grab a letter and then they turn around and come back. And that's
yeah,
how they would spell
yeah,
things out. So, what a
yeah.
fantastic tool for even adding in that gross motor piece.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine just like doing, I've done like little search and finds, and I'll give a list like, okay, now can you find this letter? It's next to something that it starts with. So, yeah, definitely that adding in the gross motor definitely is always great for them.
Scavenger hunt idea. Parents, I hope
Yes,
you're getting so
yes.
many different ideas
Right.
to use here.
Yeah.
Fantastic. You guys, are you tired of battling with handwriting frustrations while trying to get your child to focus on math? This blend of handwriting and math was one of the reasons my son struggled for several years. Then we started CTC Math, the math program designed to make learning accessible without the need for endless writing. With CTC Math, your child can work through interactive lessons and quizzes right on the app or computer. No more scribbling down answers or trying to keep up with the long worksheets or trying to even keep columns lined up for those long addition or long division problems. And the automated grading gives you immediate feedback on how they're doing. And the best part? Everything is digital. From lessons to assessments, CTC Math eliminates the struggle of handwriting so your child can focus on mastering math concepts at their own pace. So visit ctcmath.com today to start your free trial and give your child the freedom to focus on learning and not just on writing. That's right, that's ctcmath.com. It's math made simple, accessible, and fun for every learner. Now, back to the show.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so we've already mentioned some different environments and things that you can go into, specifically seeing them on a plane and in the car or van or whatever, planes, trains, and automobiles. But what about
Yeah.
outdoors?
Yeah,
I
honestly.
have people who are forever talking about mud kitchens and they're talking about my kids want to be outside, or
Yeah.
maybe they're doing the 1,000 hours outside. So, how
Yeah.
have you seen or encouraged play in the outdoor setting with them?
Yeah, so I love a good mud kitchen. I don't mind messy play at all. So I really do enjoy having, I've got different themes of like different food styles of things. So I've even got like a pizza fractions kit. And so it goes from like a whole pie to like eighths. And so I've seen people mix up their pizzas in their kitchens
So,
and add different layers and things to it. And just those fine motor skills of even having to mix the ingredients in with their mud and the water, just adding those things to it really does encourage that fine motor development. I've
yes.
even done just outdoorsy kits. So I'll have a camping kit that you can take with you camping. And I've got different like bugs and activities like that, and some little worms and dirt kinds of things. So trying to get them to not just do it inside, but like you were saying, take it wherever you want to go with them. Then it really is just good for them to be able to have that sensory outlet and to be building those fine motor skills just throughout their day.
I love it. So there, when we're talking about fine motor skills, yes, we're talking about the strengthening of hands clearly, so that then we can have all these different grasp patterns. And a big piece of that is what you were talking about with the mud kitchen and putting them in different mud, obviously, and having to dig it out.
Yeah.
But what about different grasp patterns? So do you have multiple sizes of things?
Yes. So when I make my kits, I try to make them with multiple textures and sizes of items in each kit. So I've got some that have like big chunky pieces for little kids and just like for encouraging them to grab onto those bigger pieces. And then I've got some of the smaller pieces that you have to dig more and use those skills a little bit more to get to the little ones. And then I've got different textures inside. So I've got some smooth things, I've got some like rougher textures. So trying to really encourage them to find the feeling that they enjoy and reach for that, grab it. I've got different like scoopers and things. So I've got some that really, it's the shape of scissors. So they don't even realize they're working on those like scissor skills. So they're like trying to grasp it like that. Or I've got like little wooden scoopers. So they're just practicing those different skills that will be helpful throughout life, but just from a young age in a fun way. So they don't even really notice how much they're learning at the time.
Yes.
Yes. So that's
learning without actually like sitting down to learn is my very favorite thing.
yes.
Handwriting without actually writing.
Yes, exactly. And I think just from my homeschool background, then my mom encouraged a lot of hands-on learning. And so my goal before I even started was like, okay, I want it to be so they don't even realize that they're learning a lesson right now. Just let them play and then they'll use those skills later. But yeah, just keep it fun and entertaining, but still educational for them.
Yes. So good. So good. So finally, there are many parents that come to me and they're talking about their older kiddos who really still struggle with fine motor skills and how that can really be impacting even as we're starting to type or still really working on handwriting. So are there things that you have older kiddos?
Yeah, so I've got a few things geared towards older, just like different. I've got some puzzles and trays and things. I've had even like adults coming and like just a little fidget kind of a thing. I've got some little trays that they have different like textures and things, and you can rub it across them and just build those skills, but it's almost soothing of a way.
Yeah.
You can just like practice that. Most of my kits are geared for younger. I've got a few different like educational things for older as well, but mainly just those like the trays and things that I've got with different textures and such. So trying to keep it entertaining.
Right. I love it. We've also taken our old alphabet sets and put them in the order of keyboarding. So when my older son was learning to type, but yet just sitting and practicing the typing was hard, we at that point were just working on the memory of the order of letters. So we would do races to go over and pick up the letters and come back, just changed it up rather than learning the alphabet and learning instead the QWERTY keyboard. So parents, if you're looking at ways to progress through, that can be one of them.
I totally, when we were learning typing, I feel like it's almost like a random order of letters. So
it is a random order.
That we did a lot of just the little computer keyboard games too that were really good. And okay, I can go through this without having to like, okay, what is this order? But
A space It gets very tedious.
Yes.
Awesome. Can you please let us know where to find you? And also you have a special coupon code for our listeners. So can you share that too?
Yes. So I've got a website, creatingadventuresco.com. And then I've got a coupon code that will be available for you guys. It's homeschooled15, and that'll get you 15% off of anything on the website.
Which is super exciting. And you're also on Instagram too, right?
Yeah. So I'm Creating Adventures Co. on Instagram. And then I've got a Facebook. It's Homeschool Harry and Hannah on Facebook. And that's just because I have a children's book, but it's a long name.
But a great name. I love it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you again for being here. And I know this is going to be really helpful for many families who are looking for just creative ways or new and different things to present to their kiddos to continue out through the day. So thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.